Living at the foot of Mount Kenya are the Agikuyu people, who are endowed with a rich cultural heritage. The founding parents of the Agikuyu, that is Gikuyu and Mumbi, are said to have first settled at Mukurwe, Wanyagathanga, in the present-day Murang'a district. Their descendants, however, scattered widely towards directions as far as Ndia and Karori, Metumi and Gaki, causing noticeable variations in dialects and cultural practices. The site, now preserved as a national heritage, is believed to have been the home of the founders. Since time immemorial, music has been an integral part of the Agikuyu way of life. All events are laced with a heavy accompaniment of song and dance, which varies with respective ceremony, age group and folk. There is music for the birth of a child naming, circumcision, general work, harvesting, or just mere entertainment. The performance of Kivata, Nguru, Gitiro, Njokia, Ngushu, and Mudua dances signify a particular purpose or event to those involved. Amongst these song and dance practices, there are those that have lived with the Agikuyu since the days of their forefathers, while some are neo-cultural practices adapted from other communities within or outside this country. An example of this is the popular Mwomboko, which, though widely regarded as a Gikuyu traditional dance, was only incorporated into their repertoire in the middle of the last century. Ndumo dance is arguably one of the oldest Agikuyu dances. Ndumo is derived from the word gutuma, which in Gikuyu language means throbbing, as in the case of the heartbeat. The main body movement of Ndumo is characterized by heaving of the chest. According to norms, Ndumo was exclusively a female dance meant for mature Gikuyu girls, referred to as airetu. These were girls who had undergone all rites of passage from childhood to adulthood, including circumcision, and were now ready for marriage. Circumcision would be done at around the age of 16, but the girls were only allowed to participate in Ndumo after a season or two, when they had fully learned the dance and what was expected of them in their adult life. Ndumo was a happy dance performed during the time of plenty. This was after harvests. The girls would first undertake their domestic chores before converging for the dance in the afternoons. The performance would last to just before sunset. On certain occasions, though, girls from several villages would come together to perform. During these joint performances, referred to as dhoko, the girls would learn and perform the various Ndumo songs from the other villages. Ndumo performances were held away from the homesteads in special arenas known as iharo. Since all the land was communal, suitable, clear, flat grounds would be selected to be the iharo. There were several of these arenas in each village, and the joint performances would be held in the biggest keharo. This site that is now Udhaya Stadium is one remnant of what used to be a sizable keharo, where girls from as far as Kangema and Chinga could converge for Ndumo. Ndumo performances presented an appropriate forum for girls to exhibit their singing and dancing skills so as to attract marriage partners. Dominant in the audience would be anake, or mature Agikuyu boys, who are ready to marry after completing all other rites of passage from childhood to adulthood. Their aim was to identify and interact with whomever amongst the dancers they felt could make future partners. The girls who displayed the most excellent dancing and singing skills would be the first to attract suitors.
Nuthuta mwaka kana mwaka nigetha riu makorwo makunurwa na maruta tunyamu ndu no gwetana gwa tumaritwo me gutuma aberithu banini matikagoke nigetha aria mambere magurwe
The thematic Ndumo songs were handed down through generations and were meant to educate the girls on their responsibilities in society. There were several sources from where the girls learnt Ndumo. From a younger age, they could pick up the song texts and dance steps from their elder sisters, who were established performers. Parents ensured their daughters were well versed with Agikuyu customary practices. They would instill in the girls the importance of good virtues, as participation in the Ndumo dance required girls with good morals and good understanding of their traditions. After observing their elder sisters performing, the younger girls would practice all they had learned amongst themselves as they worked in the fields. It is through these informal practice sessions that they would identify those amongst them who had shown the prowess to qualify to be the future leaders of their dances.
Kana akora ne indimeni ora mwandike akarutwa rwembo ni cieko ciake bura ironwa inje.
The songs were carefully packaged in metaphoric language to leave a lasting impact in the minds of both performers and the audience. An example is where the soloist proudly tells the other performers and the audience that her costume has never been rained on by the heavy rains that made rivers swell and burst their banks. In this song, she is telling all how she has guarded her virginity, a trait others should emulate. Virginity was highly valued among the Agikuyu. The girls would ridicule boys who were known to seek sexual favors from them, like in this song. They would also ridicule those amongst themselves who may have faltered and were now pregnant without pointing them out, as this song goes. And what reprisals would the pregnant ones face?
No giathire uthie thingira wa mwanake uhitie na mwanake ndugacoka kiharo kiu kuina Ndumo. Ungiathire ugie mwana ndugacoka kiharo kiu na thoguo ni aguthinjwo ni athuri aria angi. Na thoguo athinjwo ni athuri aria angi. Muthuri ucio mwanake ucio mwathire nake akorwo ndagukuhikia.
Since it is the fathers who made the dance costumes for their girls, they would be found on the receiving end if the costume was ill-fitting and not attractive.
No todo isere ndari buri cia kugura ruwa eke atia mutumire nguo kwoguo nguo cia Ndumo cia iritu kana cia kwihumba cia iritu cia tumagona ni maithe.
Some Ndumo songs would be used to praise respected members of society, including the girls' own parents, while others were boastful songs that they used to tease each other or the boys.
Yo baba ndari kabi nini ndatindaga ngerethia riu ngaritwa Ndumo ngerwa tondu ndindaga ngerethia mwana kere ukanenda kangoro okuria ngurithia
Nibo barero akiarethie
narethie mundu akiendwa arutagwo rithi nene akwa ndarutirwo ndi mwiri
woyo mathigo aria turaina te ungi nuyu
rwimbo ruu niwe mukuinagira
warutitwe riu
mwaka wa 30
ndorethie kurithia mundu akiendwa arutagwo rithi.
You may have noticed a commonly used response, Eye Wakaranja, in most of the Ndumo songs. What was the origin of this response?
Na andu anini ose makiria muceba wa iritu mari kuona mundu mucaka no nginya mamuheritwa na ni akwendetanio nake riu o muiritu ori ogadi muiritu obo uri wa undu wa karanja muiritu obo uri wa undu wa karanja riu airitu ose ri no marutire ritu atiri ni ndu wa kara ni ndu wa karanja.
The main functional role of Ndumo in society was to provide an opportunity for the girls to attract potential marriage partners. The other functions aimed at the girls through this dance were educating each other, dancers' self-praise, praising the girls' parents and respected members of society, promoting good behavior, castigating bad behavior, teasing each other and the spectators. A well-executed, entertaining and remarkable Ndumo performance depended on the prowess of the soloists. The number of soloists would range from 1 to 3 depending on each performance. In some Ndumos, a soloist would lead these songs from the beginning to the end. In larger dances, soloists would change according to substitution of dance patterns. One could also cue the next soloist if she felt tired. The new soloist had a choice to retain the same song or begin a fresh one. In several cases, 2 soloists led the same song alternately, albeit with different texts, when the responsorial line was repetitive. In some places, the soloist would sing a long section while the response would be short and repetitive in melody and texts. In other Ndumo dances, the singers would let the soloist begin a melody to halfway, then respond to complete as a whole section. Here, the text kept changing according to the soloist's introduction. Soloists were expected to be girls of highest moral standing in society, with deep knowledge of Agikuyu language and cultures. These factors provided them with effective leadership of the dance. They also instilled in them the ability to coin new texts at the spur of the moment during the dance. The soloist positioned herself at the center of the rest of Airetu for them to observe and follow her directions. Are there any soloists of this caliber today?
Omwe niyo ndirakwera niyo ndainire kinywa ngituika mutumia niyo ni ndakoyagira retumathu maita.
In a summary, therefore, the soloists were expected to possess the following qualifications: extensive understanding of Agikuyu cultures, vast knowledge of Gikuyu language and its creative use so as to be able to use idiomatic expressions, metaphors, parables, and symbiotic language. Ability to execute correct Ndumo dance movements with agility, elegance, and creativity. Highest moral standards so as to lead by example. A good voice that exhibits command and authority in singing. Ability to coin texts at the spur of the moment, adding on to existing ones, and creation of texts appropriate to societal issues. During the Ndumo dance, the girls would enter the arena in a single line or two while singing and clapping. The stepping forward of the left leg would be accompanied by a relatively weak song accent while the hands were at their farthest backwards. The stepping forward of the right leg coincided with clapping and a strong song accent. The hands started moving forward in preparation for clapping. Immediately the right leg moved from still position to step forward. This continued until the soloist cued for change to more vigorous Ndumo movements, which they did from a stationary position. While at this position, they would concentrate on vibrant upper body movements, which were emphasized by the agility in heaving of the chest as other parts moved in sympathy. This is what endeared spectators to this dance. The more vibrant it was done, the better the dance was said to be.
Ira inua sianda nondo ru sianda ikinua re nyondo nera ina nebo borori nyondo inue mwana kione.
Simultaneously, the heels were lifted and brought back in synchrony with movements of other upper body parts. The lifting of the heels coincided with the last upbeat in the song rhythm, while the stamping and clapping of hands was done on the stronger beat of the song rhythm. The hands opened slightly after clapping, remaining stretched at halfway on waist position with the palms in anticipation of the next clap. The knees then bend slightly 2 or 3 times as the hands moved. This knee movement would be more pronounced and in some instances accompanied by a sideways body shake at the end of one solo response line. In the next solo response line, the performers bent forward slightly and produced a low gachiro growl as they swung their hands from side to side and the soloist was going through her lines. Ndumo dancing costumes were made by the girls' fathers out of well-tanned goatskin. In addition to the breasts, the lower front part of the body would be covered by a mwengo or mwehio, while the backside was covered by mudhuru, skin cloth.
Gacoka nginya haha ri ngeoha muthuru na haha uguo ngeoha mwengu ati nigetha muthuru uyu uriuka ukinye hau uguo no ukinye hau uguo riu naguo mwengu urigiuka utemwo njuri ino wakinya haha urengo uguo nguo ya ndumo ni ya ndumo ona nguo ino ya mburi ari nayo macuka matanagia gwikirwo ri agutumirwo ici ya gutinda nayo na ya kuiga ya muthenya ria magathie Ndumo kuna ekire.
Although Ndumo was specifically meant for Airetu, a time came when elder women with children of marriageable age started their own performance. The women, referred to as Nyakenywa, had felt left out of this spectacular dance and yearned to remind themselves of their younger days.
No ti original Ndumo gutire mundu mutusuri na mutimia ari kuhika ndari rwimbo
ni ya gusherekea maundu maria marokire kuma twapewa wira no ti Ndumo hakuna hiyo.
The advent of Western cultures, Christianity, modern education and the struggle for independence dealt a fatal blow to Ndumo dance performance. Effects of population explosion, land surveying and subdivision left no space for iharo, the dance arenas. The only reserved public recreation facilities were now hundreds of miles apart and hardly accessible to common village folk. It therefore became impossible to congregate for these dances.
Amome amanyani amome mutito amome isagi
Ndumo ri eninitwo kana kono gakiina gacukuru gagakanio nyimbo icio na nicio cia kinyeji gakerwo nyimbo icio ithi tutikwenda nyimbo icio ni njuru ciinagwo ni andu atene
uyainagirwo haitu hari kiharo gia kuinirwo nyimbo icio 1932 niĩ nĩrĩo ndonire Ndumo na 32 36 37 38 gĩthira hau nĩ gĩthomo nĩ ũkristiano.
Because of lack of research, Ndumo dance philosophies, components and aesthetics have been severely mutilated. A mixture of several other unrelated dances is subconsciously combined with a remote semblance of Ndumo by today's performers, with the resultant still referred to as Ndumo. Schools are a major culprit here, tailoring this dance to suit music competition's requirements while negating any authenticity. Traditional costumes have completely died away, and it is now normal for Ndumo to be performed in dresses tailored to look like traditional costumes. The dance is now performed for the entertainment and musical value and not for the original functional role. Other performers have reduced Ndumo to a leader's praise dance for use during fundraisings, social gatherings, and historical days. What then can we do to bring back this dance that was once an epitome of good morals to our younger generations?
Kĩinaga Ndumo nĩgetha makaririkanaga kaĩ kwainagwo atĩa na nĩkĩo twĩkĩrĩte rĩu mĩnyamũ ĩno.
Andũ arĩa mena ũmenyo metĩkĩre kũrutũrũra nyĩmbo icio ciothe nĩgetha igateithia ciana citũ mũndũ na iteithie rĩu na kĩo tũrathiĩte.
Tiga kũgeire hihi kũge sini wa Kenya kũge cukuru ya kũbundithanĩrio maũndũ ta macio rĩ macio na nĩ kũra marora ona nĩ bahati mũndũ ta niĩ ta rĩu kũrĩa ndakũra kũrĩa ngĩakũrũ kũngira rĩu niĩ na ndangĩmenya ndeto ta icio ndĩrakũra.
It is hoped that this insight will rejuvenate our collective efforts to revert to the learning and performing of what is authentic Ndumo.
Iye wa Karaja